Hey guys, how's it going and welcome back. So you kind of guessed it by the title, hopefully well enough. We're going to talk about why you cannot get the refresh rate out of your monitor that you paid for. Okay, so this is a 165 hertz display, 32 inch, 27 inch, doesn't matter. Okay, it's the refresh rate. We want to get that refresh rate we're paying for, but how do we get it? Because we thought all we had to do was buy a high refresh rate monitor, because that's what everybody tells us. The higher the refresh, the better it's going to be for gaming, which is actually quite true. Okay, I have to agree. However, don't buy too high of a refresh rate monitor because, yeah, it's not going to really help you out. Unless you plan on keeping that for your next system that might be even better than what you got right now. So I've got a laptop sitting here. It's an Asus TUF 17. It's got a built-in, of course, display. It's 1080p, 17 inch, and it's 144 hertz refresh. So that's going to tell me a little bit of information about my computer right there. In a laptop, at least, I have 144 hertz disposable to me. Now, whether I use the onboard display or whether I go out the HDMI or whether I use the Type-C port to display, I'm going to have a limitation of how much it can pump out of there. And that limitation is 144 hertz top end. Now, this scenario kind of can go a little weird on you because you want to run two displays at once. That's fine. You can get 144 hertz out of each display, provided your secondary display can also do 144 hertz. If it can't do that, so if it's lesser than 144, you're not getting it, okay? So it's going to restrict you, okay, by your screen, because the manufacturers dictate what the refresh rate or hertz of the screens are that they build for us. Now, they come in various hertz ranges, right on up, right? And the higher the refresh rate you want, the more money you got to spend, okay? Now, there are another little caveat to this too. I'm going in clamshell mode. I don't want to use my built-in display, which means even though the display is technically sleeping, I can have it active, okay? Which is to my benefit if I want 144 hertz on this 165 hertz panel. However, when I tell it through my software, well, I just want to show on display number 2, it deactivates the internal screen. But then that becomes a little bit of an issue because we are now limited to 120 hertz. That bites, okay? It really does. So it's kind of like, well, I lost 24 hertz. It's not the end of the world. 124 hertz is really not that big of a loss. Now, to some people, if they have the visual capability, they might be able to tell the difference, but generally probably not, okay? However, when it's a drastic shift, you can tell, okay? Now, this particular panel is a 32 inch. It's rated for 165 hertz. And the little secret behind this panel is that LG built in the ability for it to be able to also use 4K as a resolution. Even though it's not marketed as a 4K display, it can certainly do it, okay? And so when we go to the 4K setting, okay, which we can easily enough do, it reduces our refresh rate to 60 hertz. Now, whatever your top hertz is that you're getting, you can drop below, but you cannot go any higher than what it's capable of pushing out, okay? So it's kind of really sad that, you know, it works this way, but it kind of does. Now, when you look at my 27-inch display, that's a native 4K display from LG, but they fixed the hertz refresh rate of that 4K display at 60 hertz, which is very common in 4K and 5K displays, okay, and even 6K displays, very common to be 60 hertz. Now, if you want higher refresh rate in those kind of resolution screens, you are going to pay massive amounts of money. I was looking at a 4K display that was a little bit higher hertz refresh, obviously, I'm looking at $1,000. Now I paid $320 on sale. That's normally about a $500 screen, okay? Now, Canadian prices, okay? So I'm like, I'm not spending $1,000 to get a little bit more. Like, now I did find out, of course, that the maximum refresh rate the Mac Mini M1 can output is 144 hertz, because I actually used to use this screen on my M1 Mini until I got the 4K, because I wanted a native 4K display, as opposed to going the other way, right? Well, yeah, but Kev, you kind of went down the boat because you went from 32 to 27. Well, the clarity is different, okay? It's actually a lot more clarity on native 4K as opposed to having that little secret built in, as LG put in there, to go to 4K. The clarity is different, okay? Also, nits of brightness is different, etc. So I mean, there's reasons to upgrade to an actual real true blue 4K as opposed to pushing it to 4K, which a lot of 2K screens can. Don't ask me which models either, because I have no friggin' clue, okay? I'm not buying like 5,000 screens because I don't have any money, so, I'm broke. But you're going to have to figure that out on your own, right? But your limitations are always your screen and your video source, okay? Now, even in a desktop computer, it doesn't matter if you have 4 gigs graphic card like I have an NVIDIA 4 gig in here, or whether I have the 8 gig version, or if I have a 16 gig video card. It doesn't matter how much VRAM you actually have. It's how they designed the card to work, okay, with refresh rates. They put the caps on. Okay, now caps would be higher, we would hope, or, on a more powerful card, because that would make sense. And in theory, it does make sense. And in reality, it most often does happen that way, where when you get a more powerful video card, you're going to get abilities to get to higher refresh rates, even at higher resolutions, okay? But there's going to be a cap regardless. Now, the thing with Windows computers is they are currently capped out at 4K. You can't even buy a 5K display and expect it to run under Windows, because it's not going to happen. If you Google search this, you will find that you will get a little thing in Google search down below where they talk about this specifically and why 5K displays are not put onto Windows computers, okay? And the biggest part is the cost is enormous for the video card to be able to do it onto a display, as well as the cost of the screens is just, nobody's going to buy this stuff, okay? Mac people do, and Mac people get the benefits because we're also generally pushing 60 hertz. Okay, now if you look up the Apple Cinema display, that's a $2,000 display. Okay, now that's Canadian dollars again. Everything on here is Canadian unless otherwise noted. So that's a 60 hertz panel. And I'm like, I'm not spending $2K on that. I can spend $1,000 on a third-party display. Sure, it's not going to be as beautiful as that 5K Retina. Okay, it'll be pretty close though. But at least I'll get more hertz that way. Now, Apple also has a 6K display, an XDR. Now, that's a freaking nice display. But again, locked at 60 hertz. And that's like almost $7,000 display. You got to be mental to spend that kind of money. But the thing is, when it comes to Macs, we're talking about video editing and music. We don't need a lot of refresh. Nobody does, okay? Not for doing those tasks. Now, the higher the refresh rate, the smoother it is for, surfing through the internet, because you're looking at how your display is moving. And, refresh rate is how many, I guess, it's not that it's related to frames per second. It's how many times it refreshes the image is what it is per second, okay? It's not linked to FPS in gameplay as far as, oh, well, if I have this, I'm going to easily get 200 frames per second out of my game. No, you need puppy power. You need video, yes, and you need, so you need graphics for the game, what it demands, but you also need a demanding processor, right? That's how your frames per second are calculated. It's GPU and CPU. Okay, we're talking GPU to a screen. Okay, this is a different ball of wax, right? And how everything works this way. So my panel on my 4K is 60 hertz. And so therefore my Mac is only going to be able to put it at 60 hertz or lower, because I can go lower. And it doesn't matter what resolution you drop to. If you want to drop to a really subterranean resolution, even on your PC, to thinking, oh, well, if I lower the resolution, it's not working so hard, I'm going to get more hertz. No, you're not. Okay? Not going to happen. Every video card has a cap of a maximum resolution to the maximum amount of hertz. Okay? So, yeah, it gets a little interesting, but there's also another little kind of thing in there that I found that kind of doesn't make that entirely true. So I have a 1080p 17-inch panel here, okay? And the computer says, well, even right on the screen, when you open up the lid, it says 144 hertz. That's what I get at 1080p on this screen. Now, when I hook up my external 2K display here, which is native 2K, but pushes to 4, all right, this is a 165 hertz panel. But the only way I see 144 hertz on each screen is if they're both active. Now, my lid does not have to be opened. It can stay closed, and I can still have it active. I get a maximum of 144 hertz coming out of my HDMI port or coming out of the Type-C with an adapter, because that gives me access to 3 screens. Okay? That is exactly how that works. But if I choose to shut down the internal screen, even though it's asleep anyways, okay, because it's down, if I shut down the bus to not put anything to that, weird thing happens. You would think I should have 144 hertz still, right? Wrong. 120 hertz or lower, okay? And it's like, and I've even tried dropping my resolutions, and yep, I'm still at 120 hertz. For some reason, it has no issues when you run duplicate mode. But when you tell it to show only on the outside screen, because it's a laptop here, okay, it sucks back some of your hertz. And it's like, what? And for the life of me, I can't figure out why it does it that way, but it does, right? And it's like, so if I want the 144 hertz, you're telling me I have to leave the internal display active even though the lid is closed and it's sleeping, and I get 100. Yes, exactly. Okay. Now, if I push this screen to 4K on my Windows computer, this is where things get more interesting. I'm locked at 60 hertz. Not by the screen in this case, because the screen is 165 hertz, but I lose 105 hertz because I chose to push the monitor into 4K mode. So I'm stuck at 60 hertz. That's all there is to it. Now, if I take the 60 hertz panel from this, which is 4K native, and I put it onto my laptop, what do you think happens in duplicate mode or in external mode? 60 hertz. I don't actually lose any hertz when I tell this screen to be inactive. I'm still at 60 hertz because my panel is fixed at 60 hertz from the manufacturer. You cannot get more refresh out of your screen than what your screen has to offer you by the manufacturer, but you also cannot attain those refresh rates unless you have a GPU that can give that to you at said resolution capabilities too. And the higher the resolution you go, the more your hertz drop, unless you got a really, really powerful video card. Okay, like maybe a 4090 would be ideal, okay, with about 16 gigs of video. Then maybe we might get a little bit better playing field here. But even if the 4090, and I don't know its refresh rate capability, but let's just say for giggles, it's probably, I don't know, 230 hertz, okay? You can't push 230 hertz into a 165 hertz panel. You have to have a panel that can handle that. Otherwise, it sucks you back. So then you get restricted from this end and not this end. Hopefully you understand how this works. But that's the basics of it, okay? And that's about as layman terms as I can give it to you. So take it how it is. Because, yeah, I have no other way to make it simpler or even a shorter video on this topic. So I'm sorry if it was a long video for you, but hopefully you understand more about what's going on with your own gear. You can apply this same stuff with desktop computers, Windows, okay, Mac, whatever. Okay, this is how things work in the real world. And a lot of people do make the mistakes and they buy the wrong gear thinking, oh, all I need was a faster refresh rate because that's all everybody tells me. What they don't tell you is what you have to have under the hood over here to work with what's here, okay? And if you ain't got it, you're going to get the not so nice results that you thought you were going to get because everybody said, just buy a 240 hertz display, you'll be fine. Even 240 and 1080p, you'll be fine, you'll get it. No, you won't. Not unless this end can work with this end exactly the same, okay? Anyways, that's it. That's all. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll catch you on the next one. See ya!